Victory to love, the love inside your heart. Victory to the light that shines in your mind. Earth, sky, and stars.
Namaste. Aloha yogis and cosmic astrologers out there. And we are the Shaman and the Mermaid. We're happy to be back for your full moon to full moon report. This one goes from February 16th all the way through March 18th. And we have a few big events that we've been talking about for over a couple of years happening in this report. Wouldn't you like to know what those are? Well, we'll get there after the Leo full moon, which kicks us off on February 16th. This is the snow moon, and it is also at the exact same location at 27 degrees Leo as the 2017 Great American Eclipse that we drove up into the wilds of Wyoming with our boys and met up with Katrina's father to see the total solar eclipse pass over the landscape.
It was pretty fabulous.
It was pretty fabulous. And we have a mixture of a mantra today, half of Katrina's and half of mine, seatbelted together.
Pun intended. The theme this time is Fasten Your Seatbelts. It's soul time. And there's a couple of reasons why we've put that together. The Leo full moon kicks us off, and Leo is the showman, and so we are playing off that it's show time, except for switching it up to it's soul time, because there's a lot of energy around the planet Pluto as well this time, and Pluto represents the soul, and we'll get to all those little aspects of Pluto in just a moment. But we're also saying fasten your seatbelt because it's soul time, because previously we've been anchored in a lot of Capricorn energy, which is very grounding and very steady and has a lot of structure to it. In fact, sometimes too anchored and too structured, and we're seeing some of that structure crumbling in a lot of ways. And now those planets and energies that have been anchored and lodged in the sign of Capricorn are starting to move, or have already moved, or will soon be moving into the signs of Aquarius and Pisces respectively. And that is going to feel like warp speed. So that's why we say fasten your seatbelts, because there's going to be a wild ride ahead of us in this immediate next month. There's some little planets moving quickly, but throughout the next couple of years, we're going to see some big shift in that way too. So fasten your seatbelts, it's soul time, and we'll break that down a little bit more. But starting with that Leo full moon on February 16th, this is show time of a full moon. I would say Leo energy has a very creative, charismatic, and likes to be on stage, performance-oriented feel to it. So this full moon could bring on some of those nuances where there's a little bit more showmanship to it at this particular time, which can be great for those who are a little bit more shy or reserved in their ways. This might be a great time for that full moon to illuminate some things you've been wanting to showcase. And then those who already have a pretty good handle on showing off, this could feel a little bit too performance oriented. So just keep it in check that there's a accentuation towards performing. Let it be to your service and not overdo it too much. What else do you have on Leo full moon?
This full moon is square the moon's nodes, and so those are the points where eclipses happen. So this full moon, while it is not an eclipse, it is activating a whole bunch of eclipse points, both the current ones and one that happened almost 5 years ago now, or 4 years ago. And the current nodes are in Scorpio and Taurus. And so when the sun and the moon, they're opposite of each other at the full moon, are squaring the nodes of fate, it is pulling a lot of karmic attention to, are we evolving the way our souls personally and collectively are needing to evolve based on aligning with the laws and rules of the universe. And it's not a question of is this bad or good, or is it yes and no. That's all determined by free will choice. and how we're interacting with that. Will it be intense for you? Well, question your own life. Here's the questions to ask you. For the South Node in Scorpio, which we need to let go, heal, and resolve, are we holding on to things that need to die? Are we in disillusionment? Are we stuck in old structures? Are we in intensities? Are we deceiving the soul? Are we misusing our sexuality, misusing our power of energies that are non-physical? Are we seeking solutions in intimacy and vulnerability? If the answer is no to those things, it could be a bumpy ride. On the other side of the wheel, the Taurus North Node is where we want to go towards. Taurus is the intelligence of the body. Are you listening to your intuition? Are you aligning with the laws of nature and Mother Earth? Are you going back to simplicity? Taurus is also community oriented. Come together, gather, share resources, listen to the intelligence of nature. If you're doing that, check. If you're not, could be turbulence for the soul. And the last little point about it is the moon is at the exact same location, 27 degrees Leo, of that total solar eclipse in 2017. If you want to know how that's going to affect you, go find 27 degrees Leo in your own chart and see what house it's in, what other planets are there in your natal birth chart, and what was that time like back in 2017 in August? What was going on in your life? What themes were unfolding? These may be revisited at this time.
On that same day, Venus and Mars, both in the sign of Capricorn, are conjunct. So they are together in the night sky. And as I said, Capricorn energy is that very grounding, stable, structured, kind of rule-oriented energy. And Venus and Mars come together there. Venus is the feminine, and Mars is the masculine. And whenever we bring our hands together at heart center in Namaste or Anjali Mudra like this, it's a representation of bringing that left side channel or the Venus channel to center, and the right side channel or the solar channel to center, and everything comes together and is whole and complete at the heart. So with Venus and Mars coming together at the same time of this full moon, it's a chance for us to really look in at what our whole self together, masculine, feminine, solar and lunar, or yin yang is another way, that whole yin yang symbol, it comes together. There's a sense of complete or whole, or I guess complete is the word I'm looking for. And I feel that it's in this report, Venus and Mars will move from Capricorn out into Aquarius, but at this point it's in this very structured, anchored sign on February 16th with the full moon kind of cascading down on it, illuminating where we have this structure. So this is a good day to put that seatbelt in, look at our whole self. And as Michael alluded to, those nodes squaring. And remember, in Vedic astrology, those nodes are called Rahu, that's the north node, and Ketu, that's the south node. Those might be more familiar terms to you if you've had other kinds of astrology. But they are squaring, and so they're saying, does your soul have its ducks in a row? Because that's where the soul wants to go. What it wants to release and what it wants to step into. So it's asking us to square off, take a look, let the full moon shine on that. We have that whole self of the masculine and feminine together in a very structured sign. Good stuff on that full moon. Just be careful of that showmanship, that it's not over the top and a little too much, but allow yourself to be brave and go out on stage and let your soul shine a little bit. And then we move on, February 18th, the sun is going to move into the sign of Pisces. Happy birthday to all the Pisces people. And that means that the sun takes on the energy of that Piscean flavor. So Pisces is a lot of spirituality, a lot of faith, a lot of imagination, dream time is vivid. That's all a lot of the positive aspects of Piscean energy. The downside is there can be an extreme step into delusion, numbing ourselves out, trying to avoid, getting lost in the ocean of life and just floating out to sea and not paying attention to some of the things that need to be dealt with, kind of avoidance energy. So we want to make sure that we're channeling that Piscean energy as the sun moves into it and let it really accentuate where we need it to be. So stepping into our sadhana practice, that's our daily spiritual practice, meditation, mantra, walking in nature, connecting to our soul self, getting centered in the soul. As we said in the theme, Fasten Your Seatbelt, it's soul time. The sun moving into Pisces is a big focus on how our soul shows up in the world. So many times I've seen people have a soulful feeling about something, and then their mind takes over, and they're like, oh, that won't be accepted, I'll be rejected, nobody will like it. So they press down that intuitive nudge from their soul, and they go with logical or what their mind stuff, their ego is saying to them. This is a time to let the soul shine. So Pisces energy is pushing it forward for that spiritual prowess to come forth. Really step into that at this time. Then another big one coming up. This is one of the big ones we've been talking about all year.
This is the Pluto return for the United States of America at 27 degrees Capricorn. It corresponds back to July 4th, 1776, when our country was initiated with the Declaration of Independence and then the following Constitution. And it takes Pluto 248 years to make a full vibrational circuit around the sun. And when it comes back home, it's a check-in around the energies of Pluto. Pluto is soul. Pluto is evolution, transformation. Pluto is loss and letting go. Pluto is also resurrection and rebirth. So wherever Pluto comes back to for a country, not usually for a person, it's a check-in to see, is the country doing what its soul contract is signed to do? And again, if you're wondering what's the country's soul contract, I just listed it. We put it in the Declaration of Independence, the Bill of Rights, and our Constitution. That is the United States of America's soul contract. And the question at this time, from Spirit to all the collective people in the United States, government, individuals, institutions, corporations, everything, are we doing what we said we would do?
And then, if we're not, we have to recalibrate and resurrect or rebirth that soul contract. And if we are, we get a pass go, collect $200, and we move on. And so we have to really look back. And in the intention and heart of the Declaration of Independence, we were breaking away from tyranny and authoritarian rule or dictatorship and the king's law, and wanting more freedoms and liberations as individuals. And so as we look at the Constitution and we look at the United States' current state of affairs, do we look like we are upholding those virtues and values that we set forth on that 1776 day? And I think there's a little bit of yes and to that. There's a lot of things that have been granted and continued, and then there's some things that have been gone back into time, and we've almost been stepping back to where we were before. So, maybe it's a yes and on our cleanup and recalibration. There's some things that we can continue forth on and some things to really take a look at. And when we have Venus and Mars together, side by side as a union, it's almost like a marriage has come together. There's a strong force of these two to help us with that recalibration of the masculine and feminine in joint force. So I think there's a boon to that, those two planets traveling so closely together at this time. And then right after that is the Piscean new moon. I guess it's not right after that, it's about 10 days later. On March 2nd is the Pisces new moon. So we have the sun in Pisces now, and then the moon will have come into Pisces. And on this same day, March 2nd, of the new moon, and remember, new moons, we like to set our intentions and our focuses, and the Pisces flavor to that is around that spiritual practice, imagination, faith, trust, that oneness, the higher value of the capital S self. And a lot, Piscean energy is to get away from the little ego self and step into that bigger part, our soulful self. And so as we come into that new moon, consider your intention around that. How is this soul time for you? How is your soul? Have you been doing a regular check-in, getting centered in the soul self? Good time for that. Same day, Mercury will be conjunct with Saturn in the sign of Aquarius. So this is part of that. Put your seatbelts on. What do you have to say about that one?
Mercury has come out of retrograde. Mercury was originally in Aquarius, went back to Capricorn, and now has come back into Aquarius and joining up with Saturn. Saturn is the planet that is ruling this whole transformation cycle for the United States, because Saturn is the one that governs Capricorn, where Pluto is currently. And so Saturn has a lot to do with the laws, rules, authority, judgment. In its deepest way, though, Saturn is wisdom. Do we have it? Do we connect to it from our own soulful, intuitive, inner knowing, inner conscience, inner truth body way? And Mercury, while it can represent the mind, is also the ability to delve into the soul, or in this case, to go into your personal individuation or your awakening self. That's the Aquarius energy. Are you awake to your higher consciousness? And so when Mercury comes around to Saturn in Aquarius, it's an opportunity to open up the portal to your wisdom body. It's going into soul time. And Mercury and Aquarius are very fast-moving, lightning, revelatory energies. And so there can be very quick changes of information coming out of the soul into the personal realm. That's what we call a revelation or an awakening. You didn't know it before, and it's suddenly, wow, mind blown, what happened? Amazing. So it's fasten your seatbelts, friends. It's soul time.
And then back to Mars and Venus, again, conjunct in the sign of Pluto. They're going to saddle right up next, conjunct in the sign of Capricorn. They're going to saddle up right next to Pluto, also in Capricorn. So these three planets are all going to be together. Venus, Mars, and Pluto. And as I've kind of alluded, Venus and Mars represent that yin-yang, or the whole energy, the whole complete self of masculine and feminine. And Pluto is the soul. So all of them together, March 3rd, in the sign of Capricorn. I feel like this is a big day to really stand solid in our ground, in our soul self. Put your feet on the ground and be the soul of that place, the whole self. All the stars are aligning for us to really claim that and to be that and to stand strong in that while we still have a little bit of that Capricorn energy.
Next 2 days after that, March 5th, Venus and Mars, who are traveling together at the same speed for about 2 to 3 weeks, are going into Aquarius and joining up to close to where Mercury and Saturn are. This is reiterating that same theme. And another thing about Aquarius is liberation and freedom. So Venus is what your values can be, what you love. And I see this, piggybacking on Katrina, is using the masculine and feminine to be harmonious as opposed to against each other. Sometimes people are like, well, I don't quite know how to align masculine and feminine. One way I suggest is the masculine is our go-getter, our initiator, our willpower, and the feminine is what we value, what we hold, what we nurture, and or our intuition. Use the masculine to support the feminine. The feminine is what you intuitively know, your body intelligence, what you love, self-values, acceptance. Use the masculine to say, I'm going to support this. I'm going to hold this up. I'm going to value this. I'm going to invest my energy in this, as opposed to going against it or moving away from it.
And so that moving into Aquarius is a big part of that fasten the seatbelts, because things get wild in Aquarius. If you can associate any person or persons to Aquarian energy, think Nikola Tesla or Albert Einstein, you know, with the crazy hair and just lightning and all the, you know, a little too much. Or what's the guy, Doc on Back to the Future?
Brown.
These are all our Aquarian type people that are innovative and revolutionary and a little bit, maybe a little bit out of the mainstream. So there's a bit of a wild ride around what is that whole self moving in out of Capricorn, which is totally mainstream. Capricorn is the Joneses 100%. And then we're moving into Aquarius, which is so not the Joneses at all.
It's the star beings.
It's our crazy UFO friends all over the place. And I love that. I personally like the crazies because, well, I think I'm one of them. But it's like Alice in Wonderland speaking to the Mad Hatter, and the Mad Hatter says, Alice, am I crazy? And she's like, yeah, you are, but the best people are. And it's how I feel about moving into Aquarius. Like, yeah, it's going to be crazy, but it's going to be fun. So fasten the seatbelts. It's soul time.
Part of all this Aquarius energy, why we said fasten your seatbelts, it's soul time, is because Pluto, which is a slow-moving planet, will enter Aquarius in March 2023. So next year, just about a year from now. And it's been in Capricorn for almost 15 years, almost 16 years, since 2008. And it's going to be a huge shift of energy when it moves into Aquarius next year. But all of these planets that are just conjuncting Pluto, Venus, Mars, Mercury, and the Sun, are activating it and then pulling it into Aquarius. And so we're getting a taste of what's to come for the next Pluto cycle, which goes into 2044. A long time.
For the wild ride.
March 9th, Mercury is now fast moving, has now cruised through Aquarius and is in Pisces, heading towards Jupiter and Neptune, which is a predominant energy this year. Mercury in Pisces is expansiveness in the mind, no boundaries, no limitations on what you're thinking. It's opening up to go delve into the soul realms. It's the transcendentalist, it's the artist visioning a new world. It's Aldous Huxley talking about a brave new world. Hopefully it's not the one he wrote in the book, but it's the one we envision in our hearts, where we're all in community, we support spirit, and we return back to Mother Nature.
It's thinking outside the box. Mercury in Pisces is one of my favorites. Maybe it's because I have them so close together in my own chart. But I feel that energy of creativity, innovation. So that's March 9th. And then we move on to March 13th, kind of rounding out the end of the report here. The Sun will be conjunct Neptune. And the Sun is in Pisces, and Neptune is in Pisces. And this is Neptune's home in Pisces. So everything that we've said about Piscean energy, spiritual, boundless and limitless, and imagination, also the delusion and getting lost and numbing, all of that is the same as Neptune. They share the same energies because they are home to each other. So the Sun is going to come right up. And if you remember, the Sun is how we express ourselves outwardly. It's how we show up in the world. And so our outward expression of self is going to get a heavy dose or flavoring of this either spiritual prowess or this delusional prowess, or high creativity, high imagination zone, and we're maybe really prolific in our painting or our writing or our expression, especially with Mercury in Pisces there too. And or it could be a time where we become kind of lost in our own self-grandiose behaviors, our own thinking we're all that and a bag of chips, as the old saying used to be. And so just kind of keep a check on that you're not getting drowned out in the ocean of too much, and that you stay on the side of the spirit realm in Pisces energy. And then that'll take us all the way up to the Virgo full moon on March 18th, just before we hit spring equinox. That'll take us there.
On your birthday.
And my birthday is the 19th of March, so really close to that as well. And we look forward to seeing you then. Fasten your seatbelts. It's soul time. Have a good one.
Namaste.
Victory to love, the love inside your heart. Victory to the light that shines in your mind. Earth, sky and stars, 10,000 suns shine within us all. Give praise to the one. Victory to love, the love inside your heart. the light.